There were 3 doors exiting from this place. I decided to take the one furthest from the train tracks. We emerged into another lighted hallway. Spike immediately started growling, and I heard the sound of a scuffle coming from up ahead. After a few cautious steps forward, I could see the source of the ruckus. There was a dark corridor off to the right. A pack of hellhounds were in front of it in a serious battle with unseen assailants. I caught a glimpse of a rat-like head with multiple eyes. Spats! Come on, Spike. Let's retreat until they kill each other off. We retraced our steps to the double doors leading to the DMV, but they were locked. Bastards. I knelt down and patted Spike to calm him down, but he was still highly agitated. We shared the last of my beef jerky while waiting for the situation to resolve, washing it down with some of my precious wine. After a few minutes, I deemed it safe enough to venture forth. Back at the side hallway, there were 6 of the hellhounds left, their mouths slick with blood from the spats. They had dragged several of their dead enemies out into the light and were feasting on them. We rushed them with sword and fang. With our element of surprise, we dispatched them in short order. My arm tingles were decidedly less intense now, returns diminishing. After the fight, Spike helped himself to some spat meat. It was disgusting, but a dog's gotta eat. He wouldn't touch the hellhounds. I decided to explore the side tunnel, so I pulled out my trusty flashlight and led the way. Spike was licking his chops and snuffled at a few of the dead spats along the way. At the end, there was a locked iron door with no peephole. I held the flashlight between my knees while manipulating my lockpicks. An image of 6 pins came to mind, a serious test of my skills. I broke 2 picks and was about to pack it in when I met with success. I got a nice jolt of experience, and Spike gave a short yip as if he understood I had accomplished something. Inside, I was delighted to discover a modest room with a queen-size bed and a functioning bathroom. The door had a hand-operated deadbolt on the inside. There was even a cupboard stocked with some dried fruit and nuts and more beef jerky. A bottle of wine completed the largesse. I turned around to toss a morsel to Spike, but he had disappeared into the bathroom and I could hear him lapping water from the toilet. No surprise there. The real surprise was, as I entered the bathroom and he hopped up on the toilet to take a dump. I had heard of potty-trained cats before, but never dogs. It was becoming clear Spike was no ordinary dog. The topper was when he pawed the handle upon finishing. Bravo! There was a towel in the bathroom, so I took a shower, shaved, and brushed my teeth. I had no idea how long it had been since I had slept, but I was tired and that was good enough. I laid on the bed with my clothes on. I didn't want them vanishing while I was asleep. I rolled the bedspread on top of myself, and Spike curled up at the foot of the bed. The lights in the room started fading, and so did I. I had a dream that night. I was back in my room at home, surfing the internet as usual. I could hear Miranda in the other room, laughing and joking with her friends. The door opened behind me. Miranda came in and wrapped her arms around my neck. What's got into her, I wondered. She leaned down and started licking the side of my face. Her tongue felt strange. I turned my head to return the affection, only it was not Miranda, but Betty who was licking my face. That startled me awake, only to discover it was actually Spike who was licking my face. Down, boy, I said, but I gave him a pat on the head to lessen the reprimand. The lights had come on, so I was ready to get up. I shared some breakfast with Spike, filled up my water container, and packed up the rest of the food. I wanted to prop open the door so I would not have to pick the lock again, however feared I would be barred from returning like the last time. After consideration, I propped the door open with one chair and dragged another along behind me. As we progressed along the hallway, I searched the ceiling with my flashlight for a gap. I found one just before the main hallway. I suspected this is where a chained barrier would descend to prevent me from returning to the bedroom. I carefully positioned the chair under the gap to prevent the barrier from reaching the floor. Aha, gotcha now, fuckers, I said out loud. Spike gave me a quizzical look. Not you, boy, I assured him and gave him a pat. We proceeded right down the hallway, away from the DMV. After a bit, the path widened out and became more like a street, though a narrow one. A little further on, there was a shop with a sign that said, Pawnbroker. It even had the 3 golden balls suspended over it. A little bell chimed as I pushed the door open. Behind the glass counter was a short demon sporting a little green cap like a French workman, which sat between his horns. He also had a handlebar mustache and wore a tweed jacket with a matching bow tie. He looked up as I walked in. He didn't appear to have a problem with Spike entering his establishment. Morning, friend. Are you looking for anything in particular? I hadn't been, but a couple items under the glass top caught my eye. There was a shiny metallic lockpick and a sawed-off shotgun looked to be a 12-gauge. Can you show me that lockpick, please? He pulled the item out and laid it on the counter. Certainly this is a stainless steel deluxe number, virtually guaranteed not to break. Shall I demonstrate it for you? That won't be necessary. How much? A mere 3 coins. He rotated the pick nimbly in his clawed fingers. What about that shotgun? I asked. He reached down and reverently brought the gun out, expertly cracked it open and looked at me through the 2 barrels. This baby will really pack a punch at close range. I'm feeling generous, so it's yours for 10 coins of the realm. It was clear the shotgun was in mint condition, so I was sorely tempted. I'm a little light on coin at the moment. The demon eyed me solicitously. Do you have anything for trade? There was no way I was going to part with a magic ring, but I pulled off my gloves, removed my wedding band, and placed it on the counter. What will this get me? The pawnbroker picked up the ring and eyed it with one of those jeweler magnifying pieces. 24-karat gold, he said. For this I can give you both items, and I'll even throw in a box of shells. I had no way of knowing if I was being fleeced, but I paused as if thoughtfully considering the offer. They seemed of approximately equal value in this unknown economy. The demon was retrieving a box of shotgun shells, doing an assumptive close on me. Betty's voice came to me unbidden. Remember the werewolves! Do you have any silver bullets? I asked. For a shotgun? He hesitated for a moment, then added, Wait a moment. I may just have something that will suffice. He bent down and came up with a broomstick. He tuned around, climbed on a step stool, and poked at an aged wooden box on top of the shelves behind him. When a corner of the box protruded over the edge, he jabbed it and caught the falling box with a practiced hand. Here we go, he said as he opened the box. Inside were 4 pristine red shotgun shells. These are my last ones. They are filled with dimes that still have silver content. Technically, these are illegal, but I won't tell if you won't. He set the shells on top of the cardboard box with the standard ammo. You seem like a nice fellow, so no extra charge. His quick accommodation to my request seemed to imply he was getting the better of this bargain. Plus, he made me wonder, if there were laws down here, who made them? And more to the point, who enforced them? Regardless, I needed those items. I pushed my luck a bit further. You have a deal if you give me 5 coins back in change. 3, he countered immediately. Deal. If I ever escaped from this place, I was sure Miranda would ream me unmercifully, but I needed to survive first. I loaded the shotgun with 2 of the silver cartridges and put the new items in my magic satchel. As advertised, it didn't increase in weight. I moved to exit the shop. The demon was still eyeing my wedding ring greedily. Come back anytime, he said. He seemed a little too happy with our transaction. Never trust a demon, indeed. Outside the shop, I ventured further down the hallway. Eventually, we came to 3 green unmarked doors in a row. Where was fricking Monty Hall? I motioned toward the doors. What do you say, Spike? He picked up on my meaning and went directly to the center door, sniffing beneath it. Door number 2 it is. I tried the door, but it was locked, an opportunity to try out my shiny new lockpick. I had a vision of 4 pins, and mastered the lock in a few moments with the standard tingle. But before opening it, I decided to gain more experience on the other 2 doors. The left one had only 3 pins and yielded quickly, but the right one had 7 pins and was a major pain in the ass. As I struggled with it for several minutes, I could feel stress on the pick, but it lived up to its billing. Finally, I succeeded with a satisfying prickle of experience. Figuring the lock must be concealing something good, I overrode Spike's recommendation and pulled the door open. Inside, it was quite dark, and Spike immediately gave a low growl. There was a lit torch on the wall in the far back of the room, so I edged forward. Then an ungodly stench hit me, and I recognized it. Werewolf! Only as my eyes adjusted to the light could I see it was not 1 werewolf, but 4, and they weren't in cages. They were all feasting on some unseen carcass, until one of them lifted its head and sniffed. Then it caught sight of me and Spike and yowled its disapproval. I fumbled as I reached into my satchel for the shotgun, but Spike bought me precious seconds by attacking the sniffer. Unfortunately, it swatted him across the room like a rag doll, and the other werewolves took notice. By this time, I had readied the shotgun and cocked back both barrels. I shot a load of dimes into the first werewolf and emptied the second barrel into the next closest. They both dropped like sacks of potatoes. I had no time to reload, but in that moment it didn't matter. As the second werewolf hit the deck, I leveled up and got the accompanying burst of speed and power. Everything seemed to go in slow motion as I yanked the broken silver sword from my belt and advanced on the remaining 2 beasts. I sliced the extended paw off the closest one, then finished it with an upward thrust to its chin all the way through its skull. As I pulled the blade free, the next one bore down on me, but it was suddenly distracted. Somehow Spike had recovered enough to bite it on its hind leg. As it wheeled to confront this new threat, I thrust my sword into its belly and disemboweled it. It grasped helplessly at its protruding innards before collapsing in a heap. I buried the sword in its hairy chest. As I pulled it back, the werewolves began transforming back into human form. Spike was limping on a leg that was bent unnaturally. "Good boy," I said, and rubbed his leg with my healing ring. Incredibly, I had escaped unscathed. Once healed up, Spike went over and started tearing at whatever meat the wolves had been eating. I didn't ask and he didn't tell. Guess I should have taken your advice. While he chowed down, I held my nose and sifted through the remains of the first two creatures to see if I could recover any of the precious silver dimes. I was able to scrape together enough to fill one shotgun shell, so I washed them off from my water bottle and replaced the buckshot in one shell. I decided to reload the shotgun with one regular shell and one dime one, so as not to waste it if possible. By this time, Spike had eaten his fill, so he came over and nuzzled me. "Good boy," I repeated. "Let's go check out that middle door." He wagged his tail in agreement. Behind the center door was a small, dusty room with some old wooden furniture, but on a table to the left was a small, ornate chest and a rusty knife. The chest had 5 pins and took me only a minute to spring. Inside was a bag with about 30 coins, a shoulder holster, and a bag of beef jerky. My shotgun fit perfectly into the holster, and it had slots for my shotgun shells like a bandolier. I filled them up. I was not about to get caught flat-footed again. I tossed a piece of jerky to Spike. "Don't tell me you could smell the beef inside of that chest." "Woof," he responded. I poured some water in his bowl and drank some myself. Slaying werewolves was thirsty work. There was nothing else of interest in the room, so I added my 5 coins to the bag and put it in my satchel. Conveniently, my boot had a built-in sheath, so I hid the knife in my boot as an emergency backup. We exited the room and went over to the first door. Though the door was unlocked, it was somewhat stuck in place, possibly from disuse. A few determined shoulder nudges, and it opened inward. Once again, what appeared to me was not what I expected at all. It was a dusty old-time library with scores of shelves all lined with books. No people or demons, for that matter, were present. There were all sorts of formats in evidence: hardbacks, paperbacks, illustrated magazines, and graphic novels. But the catch was, every volume was the exact same book, 50 Shades of Grey. This seemed preposterous, but an examination of a dozen shelves confirmed there was no variation. Of course I had never read it, but I was aware the book had a reputation as one of the worst ever written. I couldn't imagine a situation where I would be so bored as to actually read such schlock. But I picked out a couple of the more handsome-looking editions and stuck them in my satchel on general principle. A further search of the library turned up a few coins behind the front desk, but nothing else. There was a wide double door leading out the front. Before leaving, I propped open the back door with a stack of gray books as a hedge against surprises. The front door was locked, but a set of panic bars worked as intended. On the other side of that door was a wide hallway, but it was completely clogged with thick vines and undergrowth. I took a few exploratory chops with my sword, but failed to make much headway, and the thicket of thorns seemed to grow back as quickly as I could hack it away. Spike kept his distance and waited patiently. "Looks like no progress in this direction," I said. "Let's go back to our room and get some rest." I was so distracted by the overgrowth that I had foolishly let the library door shut behind me. We were locked out, but my trusty lockpick made short work of it. We passed through to the back door, which was still propped open. As we proceeded back along the main hallway, we passed the pawn shop, but it was completely boarded up. That was quick. Eventually, we came to the passage on the left leading to our room. As I suspected, the iron gate had come down from the ceiling. However, instead of being stopped, it had smashed the wooden chair to splinters. Well, the idea had been sound, but not the execution. "What now, boy?" "Woof," answered Spike. I should have known. "Let's go back to that room where we found the chest. At least it was empty. We can tough it out on the floor for tonight." Spike thumped his tail in agreement. Easy for him, I supposed. We hiked back to the 3 doors, and the center one was still unlocked. I pushed it open and we entered. Only the room was not empty.